Have you ever felt like your mind is a runaway train, racing down the tracks with no brakes? Thoughts piling on thoughts, worries replaying past mistakes, fears projecting into the future, regrets whispering what could have been. Even when you lie down at night, the body is still, but the mind keeps buzzing, circling, refusing to rest. For many of us, this endless chatter has become the background noise of life. But what if it didn't have to be? Imagine for a moment that your mind is not a storm but a sky. In the storm, thunder crashes, winds howl, and lightning flashes without mercy. But above the storm is the vast blue sky, spacious, steady, untouched by the chaos below. Buddhism teaches us that our awareness is like that sky, and our racing thoughts are just passing clouds. Some clouds are dark with fear, others white with hope, but all of them drift away if we let them. The problem is, most of us mistake the clouds for the sky itself. We think, I am my anxiety, or, I am my fear, instead of realizing, I am the sky in which all of this comes and goes. This is the shift that changes everything, moving from chaos to calm. From being trapped inside the noise to watching it from a place of clarity. And that is the journey I want to take you on today. In this video, we're diving into 7 timeless Buddhist lessons, practical, profound, and immediately usable in daily life. These teachings are not abstract philosophy meant for monks in distant monasteries. They are tools for ordinary people like you and me. For the mother awake at 2 a.m. replaying an argument. For the student drowning in overthinking. For the leader overwhelmed by constant decisions. These lessons have traveled across centuries because they work. They calm the storm within and create a space where peace can breathe again. Let me give you a glimpse of what's ahead. You'll discover how to step back and watch your thoughts instead of being ruled by them. You'll learn the hidden power of your own breath, a tool so close and yet so overlooked, that can calm your nervous system in seconds. We'll explore the art of simplicity. Clearing away not only physical clutter but mental clutter that silently steals your peace. You'll see why multitasking is not a strength but a trap, and how single tasking can transform every action, whether washing dishes or writing an email, into a form of meditation. You'll uncover why identifying with your problems keeps you stuck, and how shifting your language changes your reality. You'll practice daily stillness, not as an escape but as a reset button for the mind. And finally, you'll face the greatest illusion of all, the desperate need to control life. Letting go, as you will see, is not weakness but the doorway to freedom. Each of these lessons builds on the other, leading you step by step from noise to stillness, from restlessness to serenity. They are simple, but don't mistake simplicity for weakness. The most powerful truths in Buddhism are often the simplest. As one Zen master said, when walking, walk, when eating, eat. But behind those simple words is a lifetime of wisdom. And here's my invitation to you. Stay with me until the very end. Because lesson number 7 holds the key to lasting peace. It is the lesson that ties all the others together. The insight that transforms momentary calm into enduring serenity. If you have ever longed for a mind that is steady, clear, and unshaken by the storms of life, you will not want to miss it. So take a breath right now. Notice it. Let the tension soften just a little. And let's begin this journey together, through the ancient wisdom of Buddhism. Through the veins of Dharma that still pulse with truth today, toward a quieter mind and a freer life. Lesson 1. Become the observer. To understand the first lesson, become the observer, one must begin with a radical but liberating recognition. You are not your thoughts. This is a principle deeply rooted in Buddhist psychology and echoed across contemplative traditions. Thoughts arise and pass like clouds in the vast sky of awareness. Some are pleasant, some are stormy, but none have the authority to define who you are unless you give them that power. Buddhism encourages what modern psychology now calls cognitive diffusion, the ability to see thoughts as events in the mind, not as absolute truths. Imagine a courtroom where your thoughts rush in as witnesses. Some are reliable, others are biased, many are outright misleading. If you, the judge, mistake every witness for the truth itself, chaos will rule the trial. But if you observe carefully, knowing some testimony is fleeting or irrelevant, clarity emerges. Practical application is deceptively simple. Shift your language. Instead of saying, I am anxious, you say, I am noticing anxiety. This small grammatical change creates psychological distance. Suddenly, You are no longer drowning inside the storm, you are standing on the shore, watching the waves rise and fall. History offers vivid examples of leaders who mastered this perspective. Take Abraham Lincoln. Burdened by the Civil War and personal tragedy, he was known to write scathing letters in moments of rage but often placed them in a drawer instead of sending them. By becoming the observer of his anger, he prevented temporary emotions from directing national policy. Or consider Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison. He later explained that if he allowed bitterness to control him, he would never truly be free. By observing resentment rather than identifying with it, he preserved the clarity and compassion that later guided South Africa's transition. The benefit of this practice is profound. When you learn to see thoughts as transient phenomena, you break free from the endless cycle of overthinking. Anxiety no longer chains you. Anger no longer dictates your choices. And fear no longer hijacks your future. Instead, you cultivate freedom, the freedom to respond rather than react, to choose clarity over confusion, and to live as the spacious sky rather than the passing clouds. Lesson 2. Master the breath. Breath, in the Buddhist tradition, is not merely a biological function but the most direct gateway to presence. To master the breath is to master the mind. When the mind races and thoughts scatter, the breath serves as an anchor that pulls us back to the immediacy of now. This is why in Buddhist meditation manuals like the Anapanasati Sutta, the breath is described as both teacher and refuge. The practice itself can be beautifully simple yet profoundly transformative. A common method, echoed today in mindfulness-based therapies, is the box breathing technique. Inhale for a slow count of 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. And pause again for 4. This rhythmic cycle tells the nervous system, you are safe. It slows the heart rate, lowers cortisol, and interrupts the spiral of anxiety. Neuroscientists now confirm what Buddhist monks have known for centuries. Controlled breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, shifting the body from fight or flight into rest and repair. Consider how powerful leaders have relied on breath to steady themselves in moments of crisis. Franklin D. Roosevelt, during his fireside chats in the darkest days of the Great Depression, was known for the calm cadence of his voice. That serenity was not accidental. Aides observed how he prepared with deep breathing exercises before speaking to millions of anxious Americans. His breath regulated his own nerves so he could transmit confidence to an entire nation. Similarly, athletes at the highest level, Michael Jordan before a decisive free throw or Serena Williams between points, use conscious breathing to reset focus and quiet the noise of pressure. The brilliance of breath practice is its accessibility. You do not need equipment, wealth, or even silence. Whether you are in a boardroom, on a crowded train, or lying awake at night, the breath is always with you. A loyal companion. Every inhalation is a reminder that you are alive in this moment. Every exhalation is an opportunity to release tension and let go. When practiced daily, breath becomes more than a calming trick, it becomes a sanctuary. Instead of being pulled into the storm of racing thoughts, you find yourself returning again and again to this inner refuge. You realize that peace is not something external to be chased but something internal to be breathed into existence. The breath, steady and faithful, shows us that the mind can rest in the present and, from that place of stillness, meet life with clarity and strength. Lesson 3. Simplify to clear the mind. Simplicity in Buddhism has never been about owning the least amount of things. It is about carrying the lightest possible mind. A cluttered environment breeds a cluttered consciousness. And too many stimuli overwhelm the nervous system, leaving the mind restless and exhausted. The Buddha emphasized that true renunciation was not simply about leaving behind possessions but about reducing unnecessary noise, both external and internal. That keeps us from seeing reality clearly. This principle of mental decluttering has deep psychological wisdom. Neuroscience shows that multitasking and constant digital interruptions create cognitive residue. Fragments of unfinished tasks that drain focus and increase stress. Every notification, every unfinished email, every half-read article lingers like static in the mind. Buddhism anticipated this long before smartphones. To live simply is to reclaim clarity by choosing what truly matters. In practice, this begins with tangible steps: tidying one's space, reducing social media exposure, and committing to single tasking. When Mahatma Gandhi spoke of simplicity, he did not glorify poverty but emphasized intentional living. He wore simple clothes not because he lacked alternatives but because it freed him from vanity and distraction, allowing him to focus entirely on India's struggle for independence. Likewise, Steve Jobs, though not a Buddhist practitioner, embodied a similar principle. His iconic uniform of black turtleneck and jeans was not a fashion statement alone. It was a deliberate simplification of daily choices so his mind could conserve energy for innovation. Simplicity does not mean ascetic denial but selective attention. A leader in any field, whether political, artistic, or entrepreneurial, achieves greatness not by scattering energy across hundreds of pursuits but by devoting full awareness to a few essential ones. By eliminating clutter, be it excessive possessions, digital overstimulation, or needless obligations, mental bandwidth expands, and with it comes presence. The reward of this practice is spaciousness. Just as a room cleared of unnecessary furniture feels open and breathable, a mind freed from excess worries becomes fertile ground for wisdom and peace. In that spaciousness, stillness naturally arises, and with it the ability to respond to life with clarity rather than compulsion. Simplicity, then, is not deprivation, it is liberation. It is the art of creating room in which true joy, focus, and serenity can finally take root. Lesson 4. The power of single tasking. Multitasking is often celebrated in modern culture as a badge of productivity. Yet from a Buddhist perspective it is the very habit that scatters the mind and erodes peace. When attention is divided, awareness weakens, and the quality of our experience diminishes. The Buddha repeatedly emphasized the power of full presence. When you eat, simply eat. When you walk, simply walk. When you work, give yourself entirely to the task. This principle is more than poetic, it is neurological. Studies on attention show that switching between tasks creates cognitive fatigue, delays performance, and increases stress hormones. The promise of efficiency is an illusion, what remains is exhaustion. Single tasking, by contrast, is a discipline of presence. It is the art of giving the fullness of your mind to one moment, one action. Leaders throughout history have understood this. Winston Churchill, even in the midst of war, would devote undivided attention to painting landscapes or laying bricks by hand. These activities were not distractions but practices of focus, allowing his mind to reset and gather clarity before returning to national decisions. Similarly, Warren Buffett, one of the world's most successful investors, is famous for maintaining a remarkably simple calendar. He insists that focus, not frantic activity, is the secret to sound judgment. The practice of single tasking begins with designing an environment that minimizes distractions, silencing notifications, closing unnecessary windows, and choosing a quiet space between tasks. Inserting a deliberate pause, a single mindful breath, a stretch, or a sip of tea helps clear mental residue. Engaging the senses also deepens presence, noticing the warmth of the cup in your hand, the rhythm of footsteps, the texture of pen on paper. These are not trivial details but doorways into the present moment, transforming ordinary routines into living meditation. The result of single tasking is not only higher efficiency but inner calm. Each activity becomes a chance to practice mindfulness. The mundane becomes sacred. Washing dishes is no longer a chore but an opportunity to feel the water and appreciate the act of care. Writing an email becomes a training ground for clarity. By immersing wholly in one task, you cultivate steadiness of mind, the very quality needed to navigate life's complexities. In this way, single tasking is not merely a productivity tool but a path of spiritual refinement, each focused moment polishing the mirror of awareness. Lesson 5. Don't identify with the problem. One of the deepest traps of the human mind is the tendency to equate temporary problems with permanent identity. Buddhism points out that this clinging, mistaking what we experience for what we are, is the root of unnecessary suffering. A setback at work becomes, I am a failure. A period of anxiety becomes, I am broken. Yet problems are passing conditions, not defining truths. The Buddha compared them to leaves floating down a river. They drift into awareness and, if left alone, drift away. The river is never the leaf. In the same way, you are never the problem itself. The language we use shapes this identification. When you replace, I failed, with, I am experiencing failure. You shift from identity to observation. This small linguistic pivot creates space. It acknowledges the difficulty without fusing it into your sense of self. In modern psychology, this is called reframing. In Buddhism, it is an application of anatta, the doctrine of non-self. Thoughts and emotions are aggregates, impermanent, conditioned, and not worthy of ownership. History offers striking examples of figures who mastered this detachment. Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for nearly 3 decades, did not allow captivity to define him. He once remarked that while prison took away his freedom of movement, it could not imprison his spirit. By refusing to identify with bitterness or defeat, he emerged with clarity and forgiveness that reshaped a nation. Similarly, Eleanor Roosevelt endured public criticism and private hardship, yet she reframed pain into service. Her identity was not chained to adversity but expanded by the lessons adversity taught. Practical steps align with Buddhist training. First, observe the language of your thoughts and consciously soften identification. This stress is visiting me, rather than, I am stressed. Second, practice impermanence. Every storm eventually breaks, every emotion, however overwhelming, fades with time. Third, cultivate gratitude even amid difficulty. Gratitude does not erase the problem but reminds the mind of balance. Preventing fixation on lack. The benefit of this shift is liberation. When problems are seen as visitors rather than definitions, they lose their power to dominate the mind. Solutions appear more clearly because the fog of self-blame dissipates. Instead of being consumed by, what is wrong with me? The question evolves into, what can I learn here? This is the essence of resilience. To not over-identify with problems is to remain larger than them. To stand as the river while letting the leaves drift by. It is an act of inner sovereignty, the freedom to suffer less, to respond wisely, and to keep walking with clarity. Lesson 6. Daily stillness. Daily stillness is not about withdrawing from life but about resetting the mind so it can meet life with clarity. In a world flooded with notifications, constant news cycles, and relentless demands, the absence of silence has become one of the greatest causes of exhaustion. Buddhism insists that peace is not created by adding more but by subtracting, by making room for awareness to breathe. The mind, like a pool of water, only reflects truth when it is still. Practices of stillness are deceptively simple, 10 to 15 minutes of meditation, scanning the body from head to toe, mindful breathing, or sitting in silence without distraction. These moments do not require hours in a monastery. They can unfold in an office chair, at the kitchen table, or under a tree in the park. By turning attention inward and letting the mind rest, mental clutter dissolves, stress hormones decrease, and resilience strengthens. Even world leaders have turned to stillness in times of strain. Barack Obama often spoke of his morning routine of quiet reading and reflection before the pressures of the day began. This was not indulgence but strategy, a way to ground himself before stepping into crises that demanded composure. Similarly, Angela Merkel, known for her steadiness during turbulent years in Europe, credited her long walks and reflective solitude as essential to clear decision-making. These habits mirror Buddhist stillness practices, deliberate pauses that preserve mental stability in the face of chaos. Stillness can also take the form of gentle, mindful activities, reading slowly, writing in a journal, sipping tea without multitasking, or walking in nature while noticing the rustle of leaves and the rhythm of breath. Each of these is meditation in disguise, teaching the mind to rest in the present instead of racing into the future or replaying the past. The benefits are profound. Emotions lose their sharp edges, the body releases tension, the mind regains focus. Over time, stillness strengthens endurance, much like exercise strengthens muscles. When practiced daily, even for short intervals, it becomes a reset button, restoring calm not by escaping reality but by meeting it with greater balance. In this sense, stillness is not a retreat from the world but the foundation for engaging it wisely. By cultivating silence each day, one learns that peace is not hidden somewhere outside, it is cultivated moment by moment, breath by breath, in the quiet spaces we dare to create. Lesson 7. Release the need for control. The human craving for control is one of the most persistent illusions, and Buddhism identifies it as a subtle form of clinging that inevitably breeds suffering. To imagine that we can control outcomes, people, or even the future itself is to misunderstand the nature of impermanence. Life, like a river, has its own current. The more one thrashes against it, the more exhaustion and frustration arise. True freedom is discovered not in domination but in surrendering to flow. At the root of this obsession with control lies fear of uncertainty, of loss, of failure. We construct rigid expectations to guard against the unknown. Yet reality never bends perfectly to our designs. The Buddha's teaching of anicca, or impermanence, dismantles this illusion. Everything is in flux. Trying to hold it still is like trying to grasp smoke. By loosening our grip, we align ourselves with the rhythm of life instead of constantly fighting it. The practice begins with acceptance. This does not mean resignation but a clear acknowledgement. Not everything is within my power. When Franklin D. Roosevelt guided America through the Great Depression and World War II, he often reminded citizens that courage was not the absence of fear but the decision to act in spite of it. He could not control the global storm, but by focusing on what was possible, policy, leadership, hope, he demonstrated adaptive resilience. Similarly, the Dalai Lama, exiled from Tibet for decades, does not cling to a vision of reality that cannot be restored by force. Instead, he models equanimity by working within uncertainty, trusting that compassion and patience plant seeds that may bloom in the future. On a personal level, the discipline of letting go involves noticing when expectations harden and asking, "Am I forcing an outcome beyond my reach?" Simple practices reinforce this awareness. Deep breathing when anxiety rises, journaling about what lies within versus outside your control, or silently repeating, "I release what I cannot change." Such gestures, practiced daily, loosen the inner knot of resistance. The benefits are profound. When we release the compulsion to control, we reclaim energy once wasted on futile struggle. Flexibility replaces rigidity, curiosity replaces fear. Instead of dreading uncertainty, we learn to dance with it. Problems are no longer viewed as violations of our plan but as invitations to adapt. In this way, letting go is not passivity, it is a higher form of engagement. One that recognizes strength and openness. Like the river, we move more freely when we stop trying to dictate its course. In surrender, paradoxically, we find the greatest power, the peace of living lightly, resiliently, and fully alive within life's unfolding. We have now walked together through 7 timeless steps. Learning to observe your thoughts without being ruled by them. Anchoring yourself in the breath. Simplifying your life to clear mental space. Embracing the power of single tasking. No longer over-identifying with problems. Restoring balance through daily stillness. And finally, letting go of the illusion of control. These are not just techniques, they are pathways to freedom, guiding you from restless chaos into deep inner peace. If you found value here, I invite you to subscribe to Dharma Veins. This channel is dedicated to bringing you Buddhist wisdom and mindfulness practices that can genuinely transform the way you think, live, and respond to life's challenges. By subscribing, you join a growing community committed to clarity, compassion, and resilience. And now, from the heart of the Buddha's teachings, I wish to offer a prayer. May all beings who are suffering from war, natural disasters, and unimaginable hardship find shelter, compassion, and relief. May the wisdom of peace touch the hearts of leaders and communities, so that healing replaces conflict and solidarity replaces division. May you, wherever you are, feel the strength of compassion flowing toward you, like a light that does not fade in the darkness. May you be happy. May you be at peace. May you be free from suffering. And as we close, I would love to hear from you. Of the 7 lessons we explored today, observing your thoughts, breathing deeply, simplifying, single tasking, detaching from problems, practicing stillness, and letting go of control, which one resonates with you most right now? Which practice do you feel called to bring into your own daily life? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every one, and your reflections enrich this community.